Calvary, we have started this new endeavor. Every Tuesday, we're bringing to you what we are calling introductions. And it's something I've kind of wanted to do for a long time, to be able to introduce my friends to my friends. And this one truly is a very pure introduction. For some time, we have been in the search process looking for a person to come and serve as Calvary's next worship pastor. And through what I believe kind of to be a God-directed series of events, I had the opportunity to connect with Pastor Binil Chacko. And if you were with us on Sunday online, you know that the Chaccos are going to be relocating to the Maumee area to serve as Calvary's next worship pastor. And Pastor Binil, it is great to see you today from Maumee, Ohio, all the way to, where are you?
Hey, Hilo, Hawaii. It's so great to be here with you guys.
Awesome. So, well, man, we are stoked to have you come and be a part of our team as we record this. It is the beginning of April of 2020, and we plan that in June. Our hope is that as everything kind of settles and all the different obligations, but then also things that are happening here with regards to the coronavirus pandemic, we're hoping that in June we'll be able to be in a place where the Chaccos can relocate here to the Toledo area. But we're stoked to have you be a part of the team, and I'm thrilled to introduce my friend to my friends. So here's the first question. We're kind of starting to work this little kind of podcast thing out. If you could tell your life story in 3 minutes, what would it sound like? Go.
Let's see this. Yeah. So my name is Binil, as Pastor Chad said. I was born in New York. My dad was one of 7 boys. They moved from India, really in search for a better life in America. And so I was born in New York, and we grew up there for most of our lives. And we grew in a really close-knit family. My dad, all 7 brothers lived within like a 2-mile radius of each other. So we grew up in each other's houses. We grew up with my cousins. We have like 30 plus first cousins, and it was just a really close-knit family. And then I remember probably around the 4th grade, my dad got relocated. He worked in Wall Street for Merrill Lynch, and he got relocated to Miami, Florida. And so we left everything we knew. So all of our family, all of our friends, and we packed up to be the first part of the family to leave New York, and we moved down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I was there for the rest of my kind of high school. And really, while I was there, it was probably my discovery of finding God and knowing who God is. I grew up in a home where my parents are both believers. They love the Lord a lot. But as a kid, like, I didn't want to worship God because my parents did. And so I went on my own discovery. I kind of tried to find God, find things. My parents, I didn't have an option to go to church when I was young. It was like, you have to go to church. So we were at church on like Saturdays and Sundays and Fridays. And you get tired of it after a while, but really, probably right around 16, I'd say God really radically saved my life and reminded me of how good and faithful he is. And I remember being 16, giving my life to the Lord, but never thinking I'd be actually serving God in this capacity. I had dreams and aspirations. My parents had dreams and aspirations. I'm Indian, and my parents had a lot of dreams and aspirations, and one wasn't music. Their dream wasn't for their son to be a musician. But we had felt the Lord pretty clearly call on my life that I'd be using music to make an impact in the world. And so I remember being 17, going to my parents, their dream of me going to med school, and me shattering their dream in like 1,000 pieces. Say, hey, I feel like God's asking me to use music to make an impact. And they had a hard time at first, but all these years later, they've realized how God's been orchestrating and working this out. I had the honor of moving to Waxahachie, Texas, to go to Southwestern Assemblies of God University, the greatest Assemblies of God University in the country for anyone else out there who might have gone to. I won't name any other ones, but CBC.
Just let it go, man. Let it go.
I'm just throwing it out there. So Southwestern, great school, loved it. That honestly, at Southwestern, God just reconfirmed that calling in my life. While I was there, I had the honor to be part of worship teams, but honestly, make some God connections that changed my life. I met some mentors in my life. I met some professors who spoke life into me. And I'm the leader I am today. I'm the worship pastor I am today because of some professors I had, some mentors I had while I was living in Texas. And that changed my life forever. I can talk forever about this, but really today for me, it's how I got to be where I am today. It's been nothing but the grace of God. Like I had a talk. I was just talking to some friends recently, and I said, you know what? Like I don't deserve anything I have today.
Hmm.
The people I get to influence, the things I get to do, the circles I get to be in, I don't deserve it. It's but by the grace of God. Like I'm just a kid. I'm just an Indian kid from Queens, New York, that should have been kind of unknown, and that's the beauty of how God takes a really ordinary, not extraordinary kid and does some amazing things in and through us. And I think that should be everyone's story. That it's not about how good or talented you are, because I can not to seem like dishonest or to be falsely humble, but truthfully, like I'm probably not the most talented, but God's allowed me to be places that are way above my pay grade, are way above my talent grade, and that's just been kind of how God's orchestrated through my life over these many years now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think sometimes people they don't always understand, like when you reach a point where you're going, hey, I'm going to make a major move from, so you New York to Florida, Miami to Dallas area to go to school, and then felt the Lord move you to Hawaii. And while you're in Hawaii, not only have you been on staff at a church, but that's also where you met your wife, right?
It is, and that's a really crazy story too. Coming to Hawaii was, somebody once called it, it was Abraham. It was like God telling Abraham to leave his family to find the promised land, and that's how one of my friends always joked around and said, "B, that's what it was like for you, man. He made you leave everything you knew in Dallas, all your comfort, all your connections, all the really everything I had built up, and say, now go to the middle of the ocean because I have a plan there for you." And truth be told, I never in a million years would have thought I'd be living on an island. Uh, really, because I'm a city boy. I really am. I'm a city boy at the heart of who I am. But it's a small town here. But God has. When I remember flying here almost 7 years ago for an interview, and I wasn't like, oh, this is the place God has. Like I was like, man, this is. I felt like I was in India for a little bit. But I remember leaving Hilo Airport 7 years ago, and the Spirit of God said, "This is where you got to be." I had no idea what God was doing, but I knew God had spoke. And the one thing that's been clear to me since I was 17 is the voice of God in my life. For me, it's nobody can convince me of God speaking to me. And that's the one thing that's really sure for me. And so I remember when God told me to move to Hawaii, I had no idea what God was doing, and I had no idea what God was orchestrating. But now 6.5 years later, like I met my amazing wife. But not just that, I've got to experience ministry in a way that I never would have experienced anywhere else in the entire world. And so, yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the voice of God in my life, but I'm also grateful for the ability to know what His voice is in my life through all these moments.
So one of the things that we started, folks will kind of see how it kind of came into being on one of these future episodes that we do. But I'm going to start asking the people that we interview for like a show and tell moment. Do you have anything close by you that you can show us that's something that's important to you?
Yeah. You know what? I do. I have my guitar over here.
Awesome.
My shout out to Taylor. You can sponsor me if you want. Right here. This is my little baby. I guess you could call it right here. Yeah.
And like from one amateur guitar player to someone who's actually talented to another, your guitar becomes pretty important to you, doesn't it?
Oh gosh, so important. I've written so many of my life emotions out on this guitar. And so this guitar is something that, this particular one, I'll never sell. And people have asked me, can I buy it? Never. This is one that, I have a few other guitars that, yeah, I don't mind. I'll move them. But this one, this is never going anywhere. Yeah.
I'm thankful. I'm not accomplished, but I'm thankful that I play a little bit. And this leads to my next question, because in these last, so as we're recording this, we're about we're 3.5 weeks into this season of kind of stay at home and the lockdown in some ways, if you will, or all this uncertainty. And there's been multiple times during this time when I've had to just pick up my guitar and say, I just need a minute, to be able to kind of disconnect from some things and have a way to connect to God. I guess one of my questions for you would be, especially in times of crisis like this, what role does worship play?
Yeah, that's such an important question, honestly. I I think like most of the country, like in this stay-at-home order, I recognize the need to stay at home. And there's something about that for me where I think every season has the opportunity to do one of two things. It can either influence you, or it can pull you back. Or that's kind of how you walk into it, right? So this stay-at-home order could be the worst thing, where we can just magnify how terrible it is. I get it. For some of you parents, you're stuck at home with 4 kids and you're going crazy. And I recognize that every season has the ability to either break you or build you. And this stay-at-home order for me has been one where I've been helping others and encouraging others. Hey, let this be your moment to actually draw near to God. And so for me, the role of worship, because worship for me is such a special word, but also something a very special action. I think for me, really in this season of having to kind of isolate physically, it actually draws us near to God. Worship has been my outlet, and not just my outlet. Worship has been my victory. Worship has been my weapon. Worship has been my solace. And worship is, just so we have the context, worship is not about a song you sing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about and how good you sing. Your worship isn't ranked by how well of a singer you are. Because if that was the case, many of us wouldn't really be great worshipers. But worshipers are seriously just dependent on your heart. And so for me, this is probably the greatest time for us to point towards God, to let it build us and not break us. Because I'm talking to a lot of folks. I'm watching how tragic this is. And I don't want to downplay, because this is a tragic time in our country, in society. And I think it's important for us as leaders, as people who love the Lord and know the Lord, to use this to be our outlet. For me, it's one of those moments where, when you get heavy hearted, turn a song on that encourages you, that points you right back to God. And that's been a release for me. I'll take my guitar and because sometimes here, when you're doing ministry and you realize you can't meet anymore, you can't see people anymore, and everything's like, it's been chaos, right? The last like 4 weeks. And for me, I just take a break sometimes, but you know what, God, I know you're working. Even when I don't see it, I know you're working. When I don't feel it, you're working. That you never stop. That song that's been so popular nowadays. But for me, it's been a reminder that, hey, you're working, God. You work in the midst of a pandemic, and you work in the midst of a great season. And for me, worship has been that release and that outlet for me, especially in this season of uncertainty, to know that He's certain through every moment of this all.
So what's the music you're listening to right now that we probably aren't, but we should be? Like, what's impacting your heart in some way that you go, oh yeah, I hope other people are listening to this too?
Yeah, a few things. There's a few songs have been released. I feel like strategically, kind of in this time. There's a song that was called "Graves into Gardens" that came out just right as the pandemic, and it talks about how God can take a grave and turn it into a garden. And honestly, this couldn't have come out. I've repeated this song probably like 1,000 times just in the last few weeks, because that reminder that He takes ashes and makes beauty from it. And I think that's something that people need to hear right now. Like, people need to hear that, like, He takes ashes and makes beauty from it. Because right now, people are losing their jobs. People are losing income. People are losing like really sanity in some regards. And for me, it seems like a lot of graves are being built. And to know that God can take a grave and make a garden out of it for us is one of those things. But that's one that's been really just kind of like touching my life. Nothing else. Another song that I've been, because for me, you can get so caught up in trying to figure how to work it out on your own. And you realize that honestly, I'll never know how. I'll never be able to figure it out. I'll never be able to do this on my own. But to know that God is there for me and not against me is one of those reminders for me that has been really faithful. And then there's one last one. It's called "Greater Than All" by the Belonging Co. And honestly, that's just a declaration of the goodness of God. It says that our God is greater than all things, greater than all things. He's greater than all. He holds all authority. He holds every victory, and everything is His. And for me, that's one of those. In a time like this, I want to make sure I'm declaring the characteristics of God more than anything else. I need that to trump, and I need that to be above everything else I'm declaring and speaking in my life right now.
It's a good word. It's a good word. So maybe one last question. What are you like learning right now in this season? Like, you feel like there's anything that God's kind of teaching or working out in your life?
Yeah, being in ministry, so this kind of geared more towards folks who are in ministry probably, but really, this has taught me a lot. And this has taught me two things. I was laughing because I'm in the tech world, and I'm in that part of the world that never neglect your tech people. Oh my gosh, like, this is a time, one of those times I'm learning that tech people are really important. And shout out to all my tech people out there, because without you, church wouldn't be happening really across the country right now. But on even a more personal level for me, I'm realizing that um, that circumstances will always change and things will always change, but the gospel always remains. I've realized that we've had to be innovative in this season, right? So we've got to be, you got to be flexible. You've got to be willing to just to be mobile and move. But one of the things to always be anchored on is the truth of the gospel. That, even in a moment like this, like, sometimes, especially as people who are in ministry, we talk about it. Yeah, God's faithful through the good and the bad. And then you get through a bad and you're like, oh, shucks, like, what did I do? I have to actually live this out. And that's where I feel like a lot of people are at right now, where it's like, a lot of people haven't had a bad moment till right now. And this is that moment to let that truth of the gospel stand so firm in who we are that, hey, you know what? He's still God today. Like, he still is risen. We're near Easter now, right? And he's still alive. He's not in the grave anymore. He's on his throne. This doesn't confuse him. Like, and for me as a person in ministry, this is just sharpening me as a leader, as a pastor, to say, you know what? Like, God is working through this, right? God is working through this tragedy. He'll never waste a season. I love that thought, right? Even this season that seems tragic, that seems really terrible for so many folks out there, I know, and he's been doing it for my life, that he's working, he's alive, and he's still faithful today.
It's a good word. Good word. Pastor Binil, we are stoked to have you come be a part of our team. And as we get closer to that time, I know we'll be talking more about all those different details with the church. But we are honored that God is leading you and Sky to come and be a part of our Calvary family. Please give Sky our greetings, and
I will.
Can't wait to see you all soon. Thanks for taking the time to talk. And it's been fun for me to introduce my friend to my friends today. And so, man, God bless you, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for having me.